Welcome back to NYIT Roundtable. I'm Jody Goldberg, and speaking with me today is Ted Beer. Let's pick up where we left off, and if you can, tell me a little bit about the first step someone would take before going green.
The first steps, as with any problem, is to determine what the problem is. What is the situation in a given building or industry? For example, universities like New York Tech recently ranked themselves against each other as to their energy consumption per square foot of campus. And that let people know whether they were at the top of that list or the bottom of the list, and gives them some idea of what they need to do.
Okay, and now what misconceptions do business owners have?
One of the worst misconceptions is that it costs money to be green. It doesn't cost money, it saves money. If you do it right, the initial investment may be a little higher, but the return on investment lasts over decades, and it absolutely is the lowest cost way to operate.
Okay, so now you say return on the investment. What type of return are you speaking of?
You're talking about, we have seen projects with actually 100% return.
Wow.
People get their money back in 1 year, and the longest we've ever seen is perhaps 4 years or 4.5, which is a 20 or 25% return on a business's investment, and there aren't too many things you can invest in with that kind of return.
Now, who qualifies for a return?
Almost anybody who's willing to do the work, and whether it's a financial return or it's a return that is subsidized by other people, it's an overall return to the economy and works toward energy independence for the country.
Okay. What are some of the examples of buildings that TM Beer and Associates have worked on in the past?
Well, for one thing, New York Institute was involved in the solar decathlon project for a couple of years, and we helped them with that, and that's a very interesting building that was built here on campus to demonstrate energy technologies. And that building has now been given to the town of Hempstead to use as an operating center for a new refueling station they built on the South Shore. But getting down to specific buildings, institutions such as the Hospital of Special Surgery have gone through their entire building and done all of these measures. A lot of the universities have. We've done it in many buildings.
Okay. And you mentioned on the campus of NYIT. How long ago was that done?
I think they were in 2 years of that competition. I think '09 might be the last one they were involved in.
When did green buildings for your company start?
Green buildings for the country started, I believe, with the first oil embargo in the 1970s. That taught us that low-cost, unlimited oil didn't exist. And what we have today is the U.S. has 2 to 3% of the known oil reserves, but we use 25% of the production. And that can't exist long term. It will bankrupt the nation.
Wow. And as for your company?
We're trying to do our piece to make this turn around. And some of the things we do, for example, Long Island University at CW Post next door is putting displays in now that will show how much energy they're saving and how much they're generating through their new solar installation. We're involved in that project.
Okay, now we were speaking about we were speaking about incentives. If you can just elaborate on tax incentives that some people are entitled to if they go green.
There are generous federal tax incentives for businesses. There are less generous tax incentives for residences. There are very generous rebates from Long Island Power Authority, and LIPA actually helps not-for-profits and universities by giving them extra incentives. So all of that's available if people choose to use it.
Okay, so now as far as you're concerned, you help them go green?
Correct.
And where do these incentives come in?
We help them collect those incentives. We work with the organization that's providing them, and we see that they get the incentives. In some cases, the incentives can come directly to us, and the institution doesn't even have to lay out the money.
Okay, so from beginning to end, you are helping them?
We are helping them, and when you put in automation system, a computer to run a building, it's an ongoing process. The people have to use it. It has to be interactive with the occupants and change to suit their needs, and we stay in that support role permanently.
Okay. Now, as far as the future, what type of direction are you hoping to go in?
We're hoping to see more buildings take advantage of these technologies which are there, and we're addressing the 60 or 70 or 80% of buildings that don't have proper systems.
Okay, and now as far as TM Beer and Associates, what part of the island or the state do you work in?
We work in the entire New York metropolitan area, from Philadelphia north and up to Westchester, Rockland, and all of Long Island. We're headquartered in Glen Cove, but a good part of our work is in New York City.
Okay, and do you work more, what types of buildings?
Everything from major hospitals, such as I mentioned, hospitals for special surgery, to colleges, to office buildings, to high-tech pharmaceutical plants. Anyone who's interested in significantly reducing their energy consumption.
Okay. Once you've conducted an audit of a building, how do you pick up what measures to take from there?
We would rank them from the best return on investment, or if it's a safety issue, something addressing the safety issues first, and then present them to management with various returns on investment. A good example would be the recent problem with PCB fixtures in New York City schools, which you may have heard about, where it is primarily an energy issue, but then it became a safety issue because these products are leaking out of fixtures in the ceiling onto students' desks. So then it moves from an energy imperative to a safety issue. But they're related because replacing these properly will save energy and remove the safety issue.
So going green is a form of safety?
Absolutely.
How?
Because you are first and foremost providing clean air in the right quantities, and secondly removing old equipment such as old fluorescent light ballasts that have potential for pollution.
And I'm going to stop you right there on that thought. Thank you so much for coming into NYIT Roundtable. And that's it for this edition of NYIT Roundtable. I'm Jody Goldberg, and we'll catch you next time.